The twin sons of Yalari 7 dipped low over the rusting towers and cracked pavement of the refugee colony. Children's laughter echoed faintly from one corner of the dusty field, where a few alien kids kicked around a half-deflated ball. There, bare feet stirring up thin clouds of red dust. But on the far edge of that field, beneath a broken light post, sat a girl. She didn't laugh, she didn't cheer. She didn't move. Her name was Illyri. Her small frame was wrapped in a faded gray cloak, too big for her shoulders. One of her legs ended mid-thigh, a crude stump wrapped in old synth leather. The prosthetic she'd once had was long gone stolen, broken, or sold, no one knew. The bench she sat on was warped and splintered, but she didn't seem to notice. Eyes, like cloudy amethysts, stared out from under white-silver bangs. Dull and tired, every afternoon she came there and watched. That was it. Just watched the others play. Not once had anyone passed her the ball. A few yards away, a man crouched beneath an old utility cart. The solar panel was shot, wiring frayed and blackened from too many heat storms. His name was Tom, a human mechanic. From Earth, mid-40s face lined from too much sun and too little rest. He wasn't military or rich or important. He just fixed things. Old things he had noticed her days ago. At first, he thought she was a statue so silent. But when the wind lifted her cloak, revealing the missing leg, he understood. Not broken, just forgotten today. As he slid a new power coil into the cart's belly, he looked up again. She was still there. Same spot. Same slumped shoulders, and something in him cracked. He stood, wiped grease from his hands, and walked across the dry field. The children slowed, curious. No adult ever approached her in his hand. Tom held a bright red ball. He stopped a few feet away and gently bounced it once. The ball thudded softly on the cracked stone. Rotate toward her. She didn't move. Her eyes, however, finally shifted to meet his. Tom gave a half smile. Thought maybe you'd want to turn. The girl looked at the ball, then back at him. Her voice was soft, almost a whisper. I can't play. Tom nodded slowly, crouching down in front of her. Why not? She blinked. I'm broken? The words hit him like a punch. Not the leg, not the poverty. The belief in her own worthlessness. Tom sat on the ground cross-legged. Yeah, so's this planet. I've been fixing broken stuff for years. Doesn't mean we throw it away. She stared at him, then glanced at the ball again. But I fall if I try. Then I'll catch you. For a moment, nothing moved. Then she whispered, Why? Tom shrugged. Because I don't see a broken girl. I see someone who deserves a chance. Tears welled up in her violet eyes, and she quickly turned her face away. Her thin fingers reached down, slightly touched the ball. She didn't pick it up, not yet, but it moved an inch closer to her. Back near the mechanic's cart, one of the alien kids whispered to another. Why is he helping her? She's a cripple, said the other. She can't be fixed. But Tom wasn't listening to them. He was already thinking, already planning. He'd seen old mining servos in the scrapyard. He remembered a footlock brace used in Terran construction. He thought of wires, joints, shock pads. And hope he stood up again, looked down at the girl. My name's Tom. I fix things. What's your name? Illyri. Nice to meet you, Illyri. I'll see you tomorrow. He turned, picked up his tools, and walked away. Behind him, the red ball sat beside the girl's good foot, and for the first time in weeks, her hand didn't let go of it. Illyri didn't sleep that night. She held the red ball close to her chest in the dark. A silent corner of the supply shed she called home. Around her, scrap metal and broken crates formed shaky walls. A torn blanket hung from the ceiling like a curtain, barely keeping out the wind. She curled up on her side, the cold from the metal floor biting into her thin body. But still, she smiled, just once, for a moment that afternoon. She hadn't felt invisible. Tom returned the next morning before the suns had fully risen. He wheeled in an old cart loaded with metal scraps, rusted joints, and cracked servos. A grease-stained cloth hung from his tool belt. His eyes scanned the field. There she was again. Same bench, same posture, but this time the ball rested beside her foot. "Good morning, Illyri," Tom said, setting down the cart with a soft clang. She turned her head toward him, eyes cautious. "You came back? I said I would. People say things. Then they don't mean them." Tom knelt down beside the cart and began unloading parts. "I mean it. I keep my promises." She watched him for a moment, then asked, "What are you doing? Building for who?" Tom smiled. "For you?" Her eyes widened slightly. "You're making me a leg." Tom nodded. "Not just any leg. A strong one, flexible, something made just for you." Illyri frowned. "I don't have money." Tom wiped sweat from his brow and said simply, "I'm not charging you." "Why?" He paused, then looked up at her. "Because when I was your age, someone fixed me. Gave me a reason to try again. Now it's my turn." For hours, they worked side by side. Tom showed her how to clean rusted parts with acid wipes, how to polish the servos and check the joint movement. Her small hands trembled at first, but soon grew steady. Her mind absorbed every word like it. Was water in the desert when she dropped a bolt and apologized? Tom only laughed and said, "That's how learning works. You fail, then you try again." By the third day, the prototype began to take shape. It wasn't pretty just metal plates, a piston for a knee joint, and a socket cap. But it moved. It clicked. It responded. And Illyri touched it with reverence. "Will it work?" Tom tilted his head. "Not yet. Needs balance, calibration, and neural response patching." Her brow furrowed. "I don't have nerve ports." Tom grinned. "We don't need fancy tech. We'll go old school. Pressure pads, mechanical assist, grip-fitted socket." She didn't know what half those words meant, but she trusted him now. That evening, the sun cast long orange shadows across the colony. Illyri took her first step. She gritted her teeth as the new leg locked into place. Tom held her elbow for support. The leg creaked. Her good foot dragged, but she moved. Again, Tom said gently. She tried again and again. The third time, she didn't fall. Later, they sat on the bench, sweat on her forehead, dust on her cloak. Her chest rose and fell with heavy breaths, but she looked alive. She turned her head and asked quietly, "Did you ever feel broken too?" Tom didn't answer right away. He looked out toward the dying sun. "Yeah. After the war, my hands shook. I couldn't fix anything for a long time." "How did you stop?" "I didn't stop. I just kept fixing things until I fixed myself." She thought about that. Then she said softly, "Do you think I can be fixed?" Tom looked at her, truly looked. "Illyri, you're not broken. You've just been left behind." A silence fell between them. But this time, it wasn't empty. It was peaceful as night settled. Illyri stood shakily and took one more step, then another. The children across the field had stopped playing. They watched. Some pointed, one of them whispered, "Is that her?" She didn't care. She didn't need them to understand yet. She just needed to walk. And Tom, he stood behind her, quiet, strong, and ready to catch her if she fell. But this time, she didn't. The next morning, Illyri showed up before Tom. She sat near his repair cart, legs folded, the red ball resting in her lap. The makeshift prosthetic he'd crafted still clung to her stump, wrapped in tightened straps and padded with foam sheets. He'd scavenged from an old mining suit. She stared at it, this strange, ugly thing made of wires, bolts, and hope it wasn't beautiful. But it was hers. When Tom arrived, he stopped short and smiled. "Beat me to work, huh?" Illyri glanced up. "I couldn't sleep. I wanted to, walk again." Tom chuckled and set his toolkit down beside her. "Good. Then today's lesson is balance." She raised an eyebrow, like walking on a rope. "Not that fancy." He pulled out a long, flat panel and placed it on 2 bricks. "Just this beam. You'll walk across it." Her expression shifted. Doubt crept in. "I'll fall." "That's the point," Tom said. "Then you'll get up." They spent hours on that wooden beam. The first attempt ended with her tumbling to the ground, arms flailing. She sat up with a groan. Tom offered no pity, just a hand and a smile. Again, the second time, she made it halfway. On the third, she reached the end. Wobbling but upright, Tom clapped. "Told you." She gave him a look, breathing hard. Still felt like falling. Then fall with style. Later, inside Tom's dusty workspace, a half-built garage made from an old shuttle wing, they sat at the workbench. Illyri carefully twisted wire around a motor joint. Her fingers were small but precise now, less shaky than before. Tom leaned over. "Tighter on that coil." She nodded. "I'm trying. It's just, this one's for the knee, right?" "Yup. Want to try boosting the power?" Her eyes sparkled. "Can I just don't blow us up?" She giggled, an actual giggle. That sound had never existed in Tom's shop before. Hours passed in silence and focus. The knee joint clicked. Then WHIR red dot. She tapped a panel. Movements stiff. Tom raised an eyebrow. "You telling me how to fix it now?" She grinned. "Maybe." He pointed at a drawer, then grabbed the nanolube and prove it. She opened the drawer, then paused. Inside was a small folded photo, torn at the edges. It showed a younger Tom standing next to a smiling alien woman, tall, with bronze skin and glowing green eyes. Between them, a tiny child clutched a ball, laughing. Illyri stared. "Is that your family?" Tom stiffened slightly. His smile faded, just for a second. "Was," he said softly. "Long time ago." "What happened?" "War took them. My wife died in the siege on Hera Prime. My son, he got sick on the way to Earth. We couldn't find treatment in time." Illyri lowered the photo gently. "I'm sorry." Tom nodded. "You don't have to be." She didn't speak for a while. Then whispered, "That's why you helped me. I remind you of him." He shook his head. "No, I helped you because no one else did. Not everything's about loss. Sometimes it's about Sixter. Sometimes it's about doing something right." That night, Illyri walked home. By herself, slowly, carefully but without falling. Other colonists watched from doorways, quiet. A few even nodded. At the corner of the main street, a group of kids stood in a loose circle. The same ones who once whispered behind her back. This time, one of them stepped forward, a boy with thick antennae and dusty skin. "Hey," he muttered. "Want to kick the ball with us tomorrow?" Illyri blinked. "Really?" "Oh." He shrugged. "You got guts. And you walk cooler than most adults now." She laughed nervously. "Maybe?" The boy nodded. "See you tomorrow." She turned the corner, her heart hammering back in her small shelter. Illyri sat cross-legged on the floor and placed the prosthetic gently beside her. She stared at it, under the dim light of her hanging lantern. It was ugly, scratched, uneven, but it had changed everything. She didn't feel like a shadow anymore. She didn't feel like junk. Tom, meanwhile, sat alone in his workshop, polishing a stabilizer pad with slow, tired hands. The photo lay beside him. This time, he didn't look at it with sadness. He looked at it with peace. The sun was still rising when Illyri walked onto the open field again. She didn't limp anymore. Her steps weren't perfect, but they were proud, measured, balanced. She wore a new scarf that Tom had found in a lost and found crate, bright blue and wrapped twice around her neck. Her cloak still swayed behind her like a banner. Dust kicked up from each step, but this time she didn't care. The ball was already there, and so were the other kids. They stood in a half circle, waiting. The boy with the dusty skin, the tall girl with feathered hair, even the one who once whispered that O'Leary was useless. Now they watched her in silence. One of them held the ball. He offered it to her. She blinked, then reached out and took it from the edge of the field. Tom leaned against a support post, arms crossed, watching quietly. He didn't call out, didn't wave, just smiled as O'Leary turned the ball in her hands. Then gently dropped it at her feet. "Kick it." One of the boys shouted. She drew in a breath, then stepped forward. The prosthetic clicked softly. The piston inside compressed, stabilized, and released. Thump. The ball flew across the dusty yard, arcing high into the air, higher than any of them expected. It landed near the water tank and bounced once before rolling to a stop. A moment of stunned silence. Then the cheers erupted. She kicked it. "Did you see that? She almost hit the clouds." They rushed toward her, hands slapping her back. Laughter filling the air. O'Leary smiled so wide it hurt her cheeks. She'd forgotten how that felt. That afternoon, Tom showed her how to sand the new socket plate. He'd already started designing version 2 of her leg sleeker, lighter with shock absorption pads and better joint rotation. "You're really doing this?" she asked. "Version 2, 3, 4, he said, handing her a tool. "You'll outgrow this one soon enough." O'Leary hesitated. "What if the others stop liking me again?" Tom glanced at her. "Then kick harder." She laughed. He nodded seriously. "People fear what shines. You're shining now. Keep shining." The next day, O'Leary brought the red ball to the field. Herself, the game started clumsy. She couldn't run as fast. Turning was hard. But something changed in the others. They adjusted, slowed down for her, passed the ball more gently. She didn't ask them to. They just did it. They wanted her there, that evening. She and Tom celebrated by sharing a meal, protein bars and hot broth. Tom had scrounged from the food depot. She looked up between bites. "Can I build something for someone else one day?" "You did for me." Tom leaned back. "You can build anything." "Want to learn how to weld?" She nodded, eyes shining. "I want to fix things too." But peace never lasted long in refugee colonies. On the fourth morning, a sleek silver hovercraft landed on the edge of the compound. Dust blew out in all directions. The children scattered. Shopkeepers ducked into their stalls. Even the guards straightened up nervously. The hovercraft door hissed open. 3 government inspectors stepped out tall, cold, dressed in white armor with black visors. One of them held a data pad glowing with blue. "Symbols." The central inspector raised his voice. "There has been a report of unauthorized mechanical augmentation on a Class B citizen. We are here to investigate." Whispers ran through the streets. Tom stood beside O'Leary as the officers marched forward. The lead inspector pointed at the prosthetic. "That device is unregistered, origin unknown, possibly unstable." O'Leary stiffened. Tom stepped in front of her. "It's not unstable. I built it, carefully, safely." "You are not licensed to conduct medical enhancements." "It's not a medical device," Tom said. "It's a lifeline." The inspector's voice grew sharp. "Remove it immediately." O'Leary's heart stopped. She took a step back. Her hands gripped Tom's shirt tightly. "Don't let them take it." Tom's jaw clenched. "You'll have to go through me." The inspector raised his hand, signaling the guards to step forward, but before they could move, someone shouted, "She's not broken anymore." It was one of the kids. Then another voice joined in. "She plays with us now. She walks better than my uncle. She built it herself." A crowd began forming. Dozens of colonists stepped forward, children, vendors, even a few workers from the mining rigs. All stood behind Tom and Illyri. The inspector looked around, clearly unprepared for resistance. Tom took a breath. "Take them. Inspect it, but not remove it. You'll see. It's more than wires and plates." The inspector hesitated, then nodded slowly. "Very well. We'll scan the prosthetic." He took out a thin scanner, passed it over the leg. It beeped once, then again, suddenly. The scanner flashed green and displayed something unusual. "Error," the inspector murmured. "Code fragment detected. Earth-class encryption." He stared at Tom. "Where did you get this design?" Tom crossed his arms. "I was with the Patchers during the rebellion. We rebuilt half the Alliance after the siege of Orion 9. The inspector looked again at the leg, then at Illyri. For a long moment, he said nothing, then turned to his men. "Let it be." As the hovercraft lifted off, dust swirling again, Illyri stood frozen in place. She looked down at her leg, then at Tom. He smiled. "Guess version 1 just passed inspection." The next day, word had spread beyond the colony. People from neighboring sectors arrived, some curious, others suspicious. A girl with one leg playing ball, running across the square, laughing with others. Impossible, they said, until they saw her. Illyri balanced on her prosthetic with confidence now. The clunky build of version 1 didn't slow her down as much anymore. She even painted it the night before white with orange stripes, just like the training droids she used to admire as a child. But not everyone was cheering. 2 officials from the Colonial Authority stood at the edge of the field, arms crossed. One of them, a tall woman with cybernetic eyes, whispered to her partner, "This mechanic's overstepped. Unauthorized civilian enhancements are a liability." "He's not even a licensed biomech," the other replied. "And the girl, she's just a project to him. He'll break her worse." Tom knew they were watching. He didn't care. Not until later that afternoon, when they came to his garage with a folded notice and tight voices. "You've been issued a formal warning," said the woman. "You're not authorized to modify life-supporting devices or assist in physical augmentations without certification." Tom took the paper, his jaw clenched. "I'm not modifying anything. I'm restoring what was taken. That's not how the law sees it." Illyri sat in the corner, frozen. Tom didn't raise his voice. He didn't argue. He simply looked the officer in the eye and said, "Then the law needs fixing too." That night, the warning stayed pinned to his workbench. Illyri touched it quietly while Tom tinkered with the upgraded knee joint behind her. "Are they going to shut us down?" she asked. Tom sighed. "They'll try. Bureaucrats never fix things, they just label them broken." She smiled weakly. "Like me, before." "No," Tom said gently. "You were never broken. Just overlooked." She didn't answer right away. Then, softly, "They think I'm dangerous now. It's because you proved them wrong. Should I stop? Make them happy?" Tom looked up sharply. "Never stop. Not for them. Not for anyone." The next day, they returned. This time with an enforcer. A tall, hulking humanoid in armor, with silver eyes and a booming voice. "Remove the device, or we remove it ourselves." Tom stepped forward. "She's not a device. She's a girl. She's underage. Unauthorized tech can compromise her development. You're risking her safety." Illyri, standing behind him, suddenly shouted, "No." The enforcer turned. I'm not unsafe. I can walk. I can run. I'm better with it than without. You don't understand the risks. I understand being ignored, she snapped. I understand being forgotten, left in the dark, while others moved on. She took a shaky breath. I'm not going back. The enforcer stared at her, then at Tom. You can't help her, he said coldly. Not forever. The second something malfunctions, she falls. She's injured, it'll be your fault. Tom didn't blink. Then I'll be there to catch her, every time. The man scoffed, turned, and walked off. After they left, Illyri's hands trembled. Tom placed a warm cup of tea in front of her. You were brave. I was scared. Doesn't mean you weren't brave. She looked down at her leg. What? If it really does break one day, what if I fail? Tom shrugged. Then we build a better one, together. That evening, while the others played, Illyri sat beside Tom's workshop and stared at the stars. You know what I hate the most? She whispered. What? People who act like helping me is dangerous. Tom leaned back on the bench, his voice calm. Because when someone like you rises, it reminds them of how little they've done. She turned to him. Promise me something. Anything. If I ever fall again, like really fall, don't fix me. Tom looked at her, confused. What do you mean? I mean, ... Just remind me how to fix myself. He smiled. Deal? And for the first time since she sat on that old bench weeks ago, ... I knew she was no longer someone's. Project she was becoming something more, someone with purpose. Asterisk. The workshop was dark, except for the flickering glow of a soldering iron. Illyri sat cross-legged on the floor, the new knee joint resting in her lap. It was lighter than the last one's leak, polished, and powered by a hybrid servo Tom salvaged from an old scout drone. She had just finished connecting the final wires. Moment of truth, she whispered to herself. She pressed the activation switch. The knee clicked once. Then again, and then, a faint blue light flickered inside the casing. Tom, she shouted. He rushed over, wiping his hands on a rag, eyes narrowing. Did it move? Illyri grinned, like it was waiting for me. He knelt beside her and inspected the casing. Clean work. I'm proud of you. I did the wiring on my own. Yeah, he said, patting her back. You're learning fast. But as he leaned in to test the response time, the inner module hummed oddly, then beeped once, twice, and began flashing a coded pulse. Tom froze. Illyri looked up. What is it? He didn't answer right away. Instead, he reached behind him. For a scanner ran it across the circuit and frowned deeply. That's military code. Illyri blinked, like the encryption the inspector saw. But this one's deeper, hidden. He pried open the side panel and found a second chip underneath the surface, board-alled, scratched, and marked with a faint Earth emblem. No way, he muttered. I didn't put this here. Then who did? Tom placed the chip into his data reader and connected it to a cracked HOLO dashpad. Blue light flared. A voice message played, distorted but human. If you found this, then the legacy lives. Patchers aren't just mechanics. We're rebuilders of what war breaks. And sometimes we leave behind pieces of ourselves for others to finish what we couldn't. Illyri stared wide-eyed. Is that from your team? Tom swallowed hard. No. This voice. This was my old commander. Captain Raylan Trent. He was presumed dead after Hera Prime. He scrolled further. A hidden directory opened, design blueprints, journal logs, repair tutorials, and at the end, a single folder titled Next Generation. Inside were files meant to teach not just mechanics, but philosophy, how to build not just machines, but people, mentorship logs, plans for youth training modules, A guide to field-building prosthetics in crisis zones. Illyri's fingers hovered over the screen. He wanted this shared. Tom nodded. He believed in legacy. Suddenly, things made sense. Why the servo he found reacted so perfectly. Why the joints synced faster with Illyri than with any test droid. This was meant for someone like her, not a soldier, a survivor. Later that night, Tom walked outside to get air. Illyri followed, the chip still in her hand. Do you think? Maybe I was meant to find this? She asked. He looked at her, eyes soft. Maybe it found you. She smiled and glanced up at the sky. Captain Trent's gone, but his voice. It's still helping people, like a whisper through time. Tom chuckled. You're turning poetic. On me, she shrugged. Blame the stars. The next few days were different. Tom rewired the workshop. He installed 2 new benches, one for himself, and one for Illyri. They named the place the Patchery, a space where no one was considered junk, where old machines and broken people were rebuilt. Illyri took charge of organizing tools. She labeled drawers, cleaned out cabinets, and even painted a sign using scrap metal letters. She hung the chip on a chain around her neck like a badge of honor. But news of the hidden code spread fast. The colonial authorities returned this time, not with warnings, but curiosity. A Federation ambassador arrived. His uniform was crisp, his voice sharp. He wore no weapons, but his eyes were those of a man used to control. He entered the Patchery, gazed around, and then at Illyri. So this is the girl with the legacy chip. Tom stepped forward. She's more than that, the ambassador ignored. Him, we want her trained properly. The Federation is prepared to relocate her to a secure facility for enhanced learning. Illyri stepped back. You mean take me away? You'll be safer. More resources. More tools. Tom's voice grew hard. What you mean, strip her of everything that made her strong, that she be with her own kind? The ambassador said, "Lir." Looked between them, her heart pounding. I am with my kind, she whispered. Tom looked at her, proud. The ambassador frowned. You'd rather stay here? She nodded. With someone who saw me as someone, not something. He paused, then dropped a datapad onto the table. If you change your mind, contact us. He left without another word. That night, Tom and Illyri sat on the workshop roof, watching the stars flicker over the colony. Do you think they'll come back? She asked. They always do. What will we do then? Tom smiled, leaning back with his arms behind his head. Same thing we always do, Illyri. Fix what they break. The colony's sky was unusually clear. No red storm clouds, no ash drifting from far-off mining fields, just a quiet sky and the soft hum of distant generators. The open yard had been cleaned, lined with flags from nearby colonies and outposts. Makeshift bleachers, built from scrap wood and old metal plates, circled the field, and in the center stood Illyri, not hiding, not limping, not watching from the edge. She stood tall, prosthetic, gleaming under the morning sun. Her scarf tied tight around her neck, her eyes scanning the crowd. Today wasn't just another game. It was the Intercolony Youth Trialsa, first of its kind. Event where orphans, ex-refugees, and colonist children competed to represent their districts. A chance to prove themselves, not just for sport, but for scholarship, for training, for a future. For most, it was a dream. For Illyri, it was proof that she belonged. Tom stood at the edge of the field, hands in his coat pockets, tools hanging. Off his belt, he didn't shout, didn't coach, he didn't have to. He had done his part. Now it was hers. Young announcer's voice buzzed through the speakers. Up next, from Sector 7 refugee camp, first-time entry Illyri Ven. The crowd murmured, wasn't she the one with the leg? Wasn't she the broken girl? Illyri walked calmly toward the starting line. The trial was simple: a timed obstacle, course barriers, ramps, narrow balance beams, and a goal shot at the end. Other kids had done well, but no one expected much from her, except Tom. The whistle blew. Illyri ran. The first few steps were shaky, but her training kicked in. The knee joint flexed perfectly. Her new stabilizers absorbed each impact like a spring. She jumped over the first. Barrier cleared it. She ducked under the second, rolled forward. She reached the balance beam and stopped. The same plank Tom had first trained her on flashed in her mind. She smiled and sprinted across. No wobble, no hesitation. The final stretch was a curved ramp. Most failed there, slipping at the top and scrambling up. Illyri ran hard, prosthetic kicking back dirt at the seat. Final step, her foot caught a clunk, then a twist. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Tom's heart stopped, but Illyri didn't fall. She dropped to her knee, adjusted her balance, used the prosthetic as a pivot. With a grunt, she launched forward, kicking the ball at the target. It struck center. The crowd went silent, then erupted. Cheers, claps, whistles. Tom didn't move. He just smiled, wiping a tear with his sleeve. She didn't need his hand anymore. She had wings. After the event, all others celebrated. Illyri walked alone into the patchery. She sat on her usual stool, prosthetic leg, dusty but solid. Tom entered. Moments later, she didn't say anything. He didn't either. Then she looked up and said, "I didn't fall." Tom leaned against the workbench. "I know. They offered me a place," she added quietly. "A training program. Full sponsorship. Tools, teachers." His voice was gentle. "Are you going?" I want to," she said. "But I'm scared." He smiled. "Good. That means it's worth doing." She hesitated. "I don't want to leave this place behind." "You're not leaving it? You're carrying it forward." She blinked. "You'll be okay without me." He laughed. "Please. I'll finally have time to organize those bolts you keep mixing up." She giggled. "I do not mix them up. You labeled the power drivers as pokey things. Descriptive?" They both laughed, then silence. The kind that comes only when two people understand each other completely. That night, Illyri packed what little she owned. She tucked the red ball into her bag. It still had scratches. Still deflated a little on one side. But it had started everything. Tom handed her a small black case. "Open it when you get there." She raised an eyebrow, but didn't argue. The next day, the shuttle arrived. It hovered over the yard as Tom stood with his arms crossed. Illyri walked to him slowly, then suddenly threw her arms around him. She whispered, "Thank you for seeing me." Tom hugged her back. "Thank you for proving me right." As she stepped aboard, she turned one last time. He raised a hand. She raised hers, and then she was gone. Weeks later, the training dormitory on Sindar 4, Illyri opened. The black case inside was a datapad and a note. "You don't need fixing anymore. But if someone else ever says, 'I'm broken,' hand them a ball." Tom, tears filled her eyes, and in that moment she knew. This wasn't the end of her story. It was the beginning of someone else's.